Good day po sa inyong lahat. So, ngayon po, di-discuss po natin yung aking topic na operating and financial leverage. Ayan po, no? Natin kong kita sa video. Okay, ayan. No? Ngayon, simulan po natin siya sa intro. No? Leverage. Ano po ba yung leverage? Leverage is the use of debt in order to undertake an investment or project. So, the result is to multiply the potential, take note of the potential returns, and also the potential downside risk. No? Ito yung parang magnifying glass natin. No? Pinapalaki na yung para makita natin kung paano yung potential. No? Hindi na para tayo mahalin, no? Joke lang yun. Pero kung dahil dun sa para makita natin kung gaano kalaki yung potential na kikitain natin o yung potential na pwede nating ikalugi sa isang investment. So, itong leverage na to is ginagamit ng investors at ng kumpanya. So, dalawa sila ang gumagamit. Basically, tapos meron tayong types of leverage. Meron tayong operating at saka financing. So, next. So, sabi natin na ginagamit to ng investors as company. Unahin natin yung investors. Ngayon, paano magamit ni investors yung leverage? Gagawa ngayon si broker ng isang margin account na pwede kang mag-borrow ng money. So, margin account allows you to borrow money from a broker for a fixed interest rate. May bayad to purchase securities para ka makagamit ng securities, options, or future contracts in the anticipation of receiving substantially high returns. Simply, you will borrow funds for your investment. So, ngayon naman, magagamit mo tong margin na to, yung margin na pinahiram sa'yo, para mag-create ka ng leverage. May note dito sa baba. Although interconnected, since both involves borrowing, leverage and margin are not the same. Leverage refers to the taking on debt. No? Yan yung pinahiram sa'yo. Or mali, yan yung debt mo sa kanya. So, yung margin ay yung binaro mong pera. So, yung leverage, kumbaga, siya yung, sabi ko nga, siya yung magnifying glass, ano? So, yung nagpapalaki nung magiging potential ng kita mo or magiging loss mo sa isang financial instrument. Okay? Yung margin, yun yung gagamitin mo para mag-invest. No? Intindihan ba tayo? Medyo magulo to talaga. So, mayroon tayong illustration later. So, yung company, ginagamit din siya. So, ito, meron na kagad tayong illustration. Company formed with an investment of 5 million from investors. The equity in the company is 5 million. Okay? This is the money of the company can use to operate. Ngayon, if the company uses debt financing by borrowing 20 million, it now has 25 million to invest in business, operations, and more opportunity to increase value for shareholders. Ano naman? So, meron daw siyang 5 million, naghiram daw siya ng 20 million for debt financing. So, sample, meron na tayong 25 million na pwede nating ipanggawa ng new factory. So, ngayon, yung leverage niya is the new factory would enable to the automaker to increase increase the number of cars it produce and increase profits. Okay. Hindi din pa guys. So, meron pa din ako. Okay. Check. So, next, before tayo mag-enter sa ating pag-usapan kanina na operating and financial, tingnan muna natin yung mga tools, no? Meron tayong CVP analysis. Simulan natin dito. Ito yung isang powerful tool and vital in many business decisions because it helps managers understand the relationship among cost, volume, and profit. So, mahalaga to. It is useful na kailangan mong planuhin yung profit mo. So, dito natin makukuha yung kung meron pa tayong leverage lang, yung break-even lang, pantay lang, walang kita. So, ano bang gagawin natin sa volume? Kung dadagdagan ba natin? Kung babawasan natin yung cost? Siyempre, ang result nun, profit. So, in basic terms, cost equals volume, siyempre, profit ka. Kung maliit yung cost mo, tapos malaki yung volume mo, siyempre, mas malaki yung profit mo. Okay. So, ito na. Kapag may increase sa selling price, siyempre, yung profit mo, mag-increase din. Taas yung presyo mo eh. Ngayon, kapag nagdagdag ka naman ng cost, itong dalawa na to, itong unit variable cost and fixed cost, syempre, mag-decrease yung profit mo. Simple. Kapag nagtaas ka naman ng volume mo, syempre, yung profit mo, mag-increase din. So, meron tayong multi-product companies na may sales mix. So, meron tayong changes in that company. Okay? Sa CVP analysis, meron din tayong contribution margin. So, per unit or marginal income per unit. This is the excess of unit selling price over unit variable cost and the amount each unit sold contributes toward covering fixed costs and providing operating profits. Okay, excuse me. So, contribution margin or CM is equals to total revenue less total variable cost. Calculate per unit, CM per unit is selling price per unit less variable cost per unit. Okay? Calculated as percent of sales or ratio or CM ratio is contribution margin over sales. So, kapag tinotal mo naman yan, sales or revenues less variable cost. Okay. So, meron tayong break-even planning. So, ito yung break-even point is the level of sales volume where total revenues and total expenses are equal. Walang kita, walang loss, equal lang siya. Okay? Parang kayong dalawa, wala lang. Joke. So, meron tayong break-even point can be computed as follows. So, sa units, meron kang total fixed cost over contribution margin. Okay? Sa points naman in pesos, meron kang total fixed cost over 1 less variable cost over sales. Or, meron kang fixed cost over CM ratio. Okay? Number 3, meron kang pwede din na break-even sales for multi-products firms or combined units equals total fixed cost over weighted average contribution margin. Okay? Or weighted contribution margin per unit equals unit CM times unit contribution margin times number of units per mix plus unit contribution times number of units per mix over total number of units per sales mix. Okay? Meron tayong illustration yan later. Number 4, break-even sales for multi-product firm, combined cost. Total fixed cost over weighted contribution margin ratio. Letter B, weighted CM ratio is equals to total weighted CM over total weighted CM per sales. Okay? So, meron din tayong department ng CVP analysis. Meron tayong revenue and cost planning. It is used to determine the level of sales needed to achieve a desired level of profit. Ilang bang sales yung kailangan natin ma-achieve para magkaroon tayo ng profit na ganito? No? In revenue planning, CVP analysis assists the managers in determining the revenue required to achieve a desired profit level. The equation may be used to compute target sales as follows. So, yung units, yung required units yan, total fixed cost plus desired profit divided by contribution margin per unit. So, kapag in pesos naman, total fixed cost plus desired profit was divided by contribution margin ratio. Ngayon naman, punta tayo sa assumption and limitation. Number 1, the analysis is valid for a limited range of values and a limited period of time. So, hindi all the time valid yung analysis natin. So, failure to observe these limits would lead to working with unrealistic data. Niloloko mo lang yung sarili mo. Number 2, all costs can be categorized as fixed or variable. Okay? Semi-variable costs present a problem that can be solved by segregating fixed and variable portion. Kailangan mo na ma-segregate yung fixed and variable portion para ma-solve mo yung semi-variable cost. Number 3, revenue change proportionately with volumes with selling price remain constant. Price is constant for all volumes within the relevant range. So, take note of that. Kapag nasa relevant range ka, constant lahat ng price for all the volumes. No? Number 4, there is constant product mix. And data should be adjusted for many shifts in product mix. Number 5, changes in volume alone are responsible for changes in costs and revenues. Diba? Parang kapag nagbago ka ng volume ng sales mo, no? Kagad yan meron kang babaguhin sa cost tsaka sa revenues. Magbabago talaga yan. So, there are other factors affecting cost and revenues, but they are lessened if narrowed down and volumes are applied. Number 6, there is no significant change in inventories, and physical unit sales volume equals production volume. Data should be adjusted, inventories change markedly. So, kapag may changes, meron ka din dapat changes in data. So, may change kasing sales in inventory mo, meron ka dapat change in data. No? Nagbabago yung lahat. So, operation leverage questions can be dealt with within the CBP framework. So, medyo lahat yan kayang cover siya ni CBP analysis. This should be supported with the capital budgeting approaches that consider the time values of money. The analysis is deterministic and appropriate data can be found. Uncertainty and probabilities approach can be introduced. Okay, tapos na tayo sa assumption. Let's take a look in the sales mix. No? Ito idea na to is to achieve the combination or mix that will yield the greatest amount of profits. Meron tayong sales mix. Ito yung parang kombinasyon ng mga various products para mas kumita ka or ma-achieve mo yung kombinasyon na best. Parang iligawan mo yung mga mix para sagutin ka ng profit, diba? Parang mayroong mga ganun siyang eklabu. Illustration tayo ngayon. Para mabilis tayong konti. Lore Incorporated produces only 2 products, A and B. For that, check ulit natin kung nasa recording pa tayo. Ayan, pwede pa. So, this accounts for 60% and 40% of total sales pesos of Lore's respectively. Variable costs as a percentage of sales pesos are 60% for A and 85% for B. Total fixed costs are 150,000 and there is no other cost. So, required sa atin is computation of weighted contribution margin ratio, break-even point in sales pesos necessary to generate a net income of 9,000 if total fixed costs will increase by 30%. So, number 1, meron tayong sales mix ratio, 60% and 40%. I-multiply natin sa CM ratio. 40%, and 15%. So, ang magiging weighted ratio niyan is 60 times 40 was 24%, and 40 times 15 equals 6%. So, pag plus mo yung dalawa na yan, magiging 30% siya. Number 2, meron tayong break-even point. Fixed cost over weighted average, weighted CMR. Ang question doon is break-even point sales pesos. Kapag dapat magkaroon tayo ng 500,000. So, paano nakuha yun? Meron tayong fixed cost na 150,000 and meron tayong contribution margin, diba? Weighted CMR na 30%. So, magkakaroon tayo ng 500,000, balik kita lang, balik puhunan lang siya. Okay? Walang kita, walang loss. Number 3, may desired income ka na 9,000. So, add mo yung total fixed cost, 150 times 130% equals 195,000. Meron ka ngayong contribution margin na 204,000. I-divide mo ngayon siya sa weighted CMR na 30%. So, ang sales na dapat ma-generate mo para kumita ka ng 9,000 is 680,000 in pesos. So, kapag nag-sales ka na ng ganyan, meron ka ng kita na 9,000. Okay? Kaya tayo ngayon sa operating leverage naman tayo. Operating leverage is cost accounting formula that measures the degree to which a firm or project can increase operating income by increasing revenue. A business that generates sales with high gross margin, net sales less COGS, and low variable cost has high operating leverage. Okay? So, yun yun. The formula is used to calculate company's break-even point and help set appropriate selling prices to cover all costs and generate a profit. The more profit a company can squeeze out of the same amount of fixed asset, the higher its operating leverage. One conclusion company learn from examining operating leverage is that firms that minimize fixed costs can increase their profits without making any changes to sales price, contribution margin, or the number of units they sell. Formula. Meron tayong degree of operating leverage, contribution margin over profit. Meron tayong Q times CM over Q times CM less fixed operating cost. Where ang Q, yun yung quantity, times contribution margin. Illustration. Company A sells 500,000 products for a unit price of 6 pesos each. The company's fixed costs are 800,000. It costs 0.05 in variable cost per unit to make each product. Okay? Solution. Meron kang 500,000 times 6 less 0.05 over 500,000 times 6 less 0.5 less 800,000. So, meron ka ngayong equals na 2,975,000 over 2,175,000. And that will give you 1.37 or 137%. So, kapag meron kang 10% revenue increase, dapat may result yan na 13.7% increase in operating income. Or 10% times 1.37 equals 13.7 na revenue increase or increase in operating income. Okay? Wala naman tayo sa financial leverage. So, it is a leverage ratio that measures the sensitivity of company earnings per share, EPS, to fluctuation in its operating income as a result of changes in its capital structure. The degree of financial leverage measures the percentage change in EPS for a unit change in operating income, also known as earnings before interest and taxes. So, para madaling sabi, financial leverage reflects to the amount of debt used in the capital structure of the firm. The higher the DFL, the more volatile the EPS will be. Since the interest is fixed expense, leverage magnifies returns and EPS, which is good when operating income is rising but can be a problem during tough economic times when the operating income is under pressure. May formula tayo, percent change in EPS, percent change in EBIT. Divide mo lang yun, or EBIT over EBIT less interest. Illustration, ano tayo si Big Box has operating income or earnings before interest and taxes of 100 million in year 1 with interest expense of 10 million and has 100 million outstanding shares outstanding. For the sake of clarity, let's ignore the effect of taxes for the moment. So, EPS for Big Box in year 1 thus. Kung tayo income na 100 million less 10 million interest expense over 100 billion shares outstanding equals 190. So, the DFL is 100 billion over 100 million less 10 million equals 1.11. This means that for every 1% change in EBIT or operating income, EPS would change by 1.11%. Now assume that Big Box has a 20% increase in operating income in year 2. Notably, interest expense remains unchanged at 10 million in year 2 as well. EPS for Big Box in year 2 would be 1.10. Paano nakuha yun? Siyempre, operating income mo 120 million, so less 10 million interest expense, same pa din, divided by 100 million shares outstanding. Okay? In this instance, EPS has increased from 90 cents in year 1 to $1.10 in year 2, which represent a change of 22.2%. This could also be obtained from DFL number equals 1.11 times 20. EBIT change equals 22.2%. Okay, next. If EBIT has increased, if EBIT had decreased instead to 70 million in year 2, what could have been the impact on EPS? Kung nalugi siya noong year 2, EPS would have been declared by 33.3%. Sample, DFL of 1.11 times negative 30 change in EBIT. This can be easily verified since EPS in this case would have been 60 cents, which represent 33.3% decline. Naman tayong DCL or degree of combined leverage is a leverage ratio that summarizes the combined effect that the degree of operating leverage or DOL have on EPS. This ratio can be used to help determine the most optimal level of financial and operating leverage to any use in any firm. So, meron tayo illustration, Sales, 2% per unit times 80%. 2 pesos per unit times 80,000 units. Meron kang 160, meron kang 200,000. Less fixed cost, 60, or mali. Ito na. 60, tapos meron kang variable cost, 8.8 per unit, 64,000. Meron kang ulit na 60 and 80. So, operating income natin, meron kang 36,000, meron kang 60,000. Less interest na 12,000. So, ang EBIT mo ngayon, earnings before tax is 24,000 dito and 48,000. Less taxes na 12,000, dito naman 24,000 Earnings after taxes, 12. 24. Shares, same. So, meron kang earnings per share ng 150 sa sales na 60,000 and 3% or 3 pesos sa sales na 200,000. So, the DCL is percentage change in EPS divided by percent change in sales equals 1.50 divide 1.50 times 100 over 40,000 divided by 160,000 times 10. No? 100% ito sa taas divided by 25% is equals to 4. So, anong sinasabi nun? Every percentage point change in sales will be reflected in a 4% change in EPS at this level of operation. The DCL is equals to percent change in EPS over percent change in sales or volume, or DCL is equals to quantity over quantity less times P less BC or and less FC less 1. So, meron tayong quantity, 80,000. Meron tayong price, 2 pesos. Meron tayong variable cost, 0.80. Fixed cost, 60. And interest, 12,000. Split natin, 80,000 times 2 less 8 less 0.8. So, 80,000 less 2 times 2 less 8 less 60,000 less 12. So, magiging yan, pag sunod mo yan, so 96,000 na siya ngayon over 96,000 less 72,000. So, meron tayong DCL na 96,000 over 24,000 is equals to 4. So, ayan na yung illustration ng degree of combined leverage. Thank you guys. Sana maintindihan kayo at pasensya na sa mga illustrations or sa delivery, no? Salamat po sa inyo lahat and stay negative, no, from COVID and positive lang tayo lahat sa positivity in life. Thank you. Salamat and God bless.